Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to be checking out a top 10 favorite martial arts slash Murim series in a non-modern setting. So these are all back in the day, swords, fists, and everything you want to see. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Please like if you enjoy the video, and also leave a comment down below on what series you'd like to see me do in the future. With that, let's jump right into the list. At number 10, we have Peerless Dad. Peerless Dad follows a father whose wife passes, leaving him in charge of 3 children. He's a muscle-for-hire, strongman type character, not the brightest tool in the shed, but he's a man full of goodwill, and you follow his adventures as he does everything he can to live a simple life, which doesn't last very long, as he tries to keep his children safe, fed, and in a good environment. The fights are really cool in this one, and the setting and context of the father that has to protect his children or return to his children all the time gives this one just a different flavor than the other things on this list. I really enjoy the interactions even between the kids, but the way the father, how proud he is of his children and how he talks about them to others in the story are really cool. Some of the fights are brutal as all hell in this series, and they really don't pull the punches. He faces near-death situations around every corner, but they are all awesome to watch. Check it out. Number 9 is Bowblade Spirit. This one follows the character that for the first few chapters becomes trained in the art of the bow and how to basically shoot aura, as well as a couple of other different things in that genre. He leaves home to discover the way of the sword as well, and it follows his adventure as he's traveling through the world, meeting new people, interacting with different sects, understanding the difference value people have on life, on how his values are different than others. It's a great story that really has a lot of subtleties to the interactions between the characters, really funny moments at times, and the fights are on point in this one. The main character is a complete badass, and it's really enjoyable. I will say that the first few chapters are a little slow getting going. However, once you get through the first maybe 15 chapters, I think it really hits its stride and it's really enjoyable. So check this one out. At number 8 is Gosu. If you haven't already heard of this one, this is a finished series and definitely is worth checking out. It follows a protagonist whose master is killed, and to get revenge for his master, he shows up in the city ready to get revenge, all to find out that the people he wants to get revenge on are already dead. So now what? It follows his adventures around a little restaurant and the different people he interacts with across time and the adventures that he goes on. He's a complete badass, but he's also a complete idiot. The main character is really enjoyable to follow because he doesn't take himself too seriously, or at least the people around him don't. He's respected for his strength, but he's belittled for his stupidity. It's a really enjoyable series. It's a lot of fun, and honestly, I've enjoyed it all the way to the end, even though the ending for me is not quite what I wanted out of the series. At number 7 is Murim Login. This one is the only one in this list that has a game-like system involved in it. And it has a main character that falls into a VR world, but the VR world is basically a Murim world, a martial arts world, where he has a game-like system and develops a narrative and a story in this world that he slowly learns to love. He becomes more and more powerful within it. Quickly, in the first few chapters, you already have him getting stronger quite fast, but he definitely becomes a complete badass later in the story, and it's a really enjoyable way of doing quests and leveling in the game-like system of this manhwa. And the main character is funny because he's a human and dealing with a Murim world that he knows nothing about. The first interactions with literally the first chapter of him interacting with a girl in bed, where he's asking her to explain what's going on, and it's just enjoyable. It's just a lot of fun, and if you aren't reading this one, you definitely should be. At number 6 is Infinite Leveling in Murim. Infinite Leveling in Murim has definitely showed up on a lot of other lists of mine because I love this series so much. It is phenomenal and should be read by everyone. I think some people turn away from it because they think the art is not that great. I think the art's perfect, to be honest. I think it's perfectly good for the series. There's definitely better looking things out there. However, the main character's story of wanting to live a better life for himself, but also for the people around him. He's sent off to die in a war because he's a low-level soldier. Even though he's the leader of his group, he's still not an aristocrat or anything like of power. While the others escape out the back, he faces his death against the greatest evil of his time. And as he dies, he's sent back in time, and this time he chooses to really put up the skills that he has so that he can get access to those same type things that all those leaders that were previous there had, and so that he can stop them along the way. His bitterness about what happened in the past does not dissipate. Even now in the story, we're finally hitting the stride where he's like facing some of these big guys from his past life, and he really wants to make sure that when the big bad shows up later, the system is ready to fight against them. And the characters are fun, the interactions are good, the rivalries are really interesting, and if you're not reading this one, you definitely should. At number 5 is Return of the Manhwa Sect. I know, this one was actually lower than Murim Login on another one of my lists, but recently I've just loved every chapter of it, I can't deny it. One, the art is phenomenal of this series. The main character is belligerent, an idiot, but he is so strong. He faced his end against the greatest evil of his time, you're going to notice a trend, and in that moment he was sent 100 years into the future, and he discovers that his Manhwa sect that he loved so much is nothing compared to what it used to be. It's now just a kind of a fallen sect, and he wants to do everything he can to bring it back up. So he brings the secrets that he knows, he uncovers different things to make them powerful again, and it's a lot of fun to read. The main character really is a lot of the fun of this series, but his interactions with his peers, the people that follow him, his manipulations of situations, but the fact that he's stuck in a kid's body makes everything a little bit more comical and a little bit more enjoyable, though he's been wrecking everyone really easily, so I am looking forward to him facing some challenges later on. At number 4 is Undefeatable Swordsman. I haven't talked about this one on any list, and it's only one I started reading recently. It's really, really good. The main character follows a one of the 2 sons born from a idiotic father that fell in love with a woman, and they have 2 sons, and he became ill, he started getting weak, and during this traveling, how could I say, elder visited their inn and stayed there and offered them a painting which for him gave him the secrets of a martial arts that was not unlocked for him until he turned 20 years old and certain other circumstances occurred, and he becomes the kid that was like very weak and vulnerable becomes so powerful with the sword over time as he learns these different skills and gets the basics of martial arts. It's so cool. It is gory, bloody at times, but the action is fantastic. I enjoy the character interactions, the storytelling as well, but like the action of this series is so damn good. So if you're not checking this one out and you want some good action with some swordplay, this one's definitely worth checking out. At number 3 is Chronicle of Heavenly Demon. If you're not already reading this, I don't know why, but Chronicle of Heavenly Demon just started its 2nd season recently, and my god. It's a revenge story that follows a main character and his master that were basically betrayed by the Murim Alliance, and several people, I think it's like 7 or 8 big bads of the series, betrayed them, and he finds himself reincarnated into the body of someone under the Heavenly Demon sect. And he rises back up from being a kid, like really struggling along the way. He was this really powerful spearman before, but in that clan, he rises all the way to becoming stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. I won't tell you where it leads to, but it is such a good revenge story because he never loses grasp of the revenge that he wants, but he does have to face the fact that there are other things he cares about now than just revenge. And that pathway is such an interesting one. The reason this one, however, is so good is 1, the art is phenomenal, and 2, the action is top-notch. The fights are so good. The main character faces some struggles that are crazy. He has this little, if you've read it, you're going to know what I mean. He does something that's very similar to Lee in Naruto with his weights, which is really cool. So that's always an enjoyable thing. But yeah, if you're not already reading this one, you should. The 2nd season started. I don't think it's going to necessarily need a 3rd season, because if they go all the way with the 2nd season, I think they would be able to finish it with this, to be honest. At number 2 is Nano Machine. Jesus, this is good. Okay, Nano Machine starts off, honestly, this is in the first, I think it's the first chapter it happens. Main character gets injected with nano machines from his descendant from, like, the future. And basically this entire story follows the main character, who's this heir apparent, but being basically hunted down because he's not the heir that people want. And this Nano Machine gives him basically the power to learn things extraordinarily quickly, heal his body quickly, and the way it's used is very... I find it's not overused because it could easily become a make my body indestructible and stuff like that. He still faces challenges, but the way he learns skills and the way he rises up within the sect that he joins, well, within the school that he joins, is so enjoyable. The fights in this series are among the best you're going to see out there in the martial arts world. It's most people's favorite martial arts manhwa right now. It is so, so good. The visuals are, as you're seeing on screen right now, top freaking notch. They're insane, and you definitely should be checking it out right now. At number 1 is Legend of the Northern Blade. Legend of the Northern Blade is still a martial arts series. It's like different sects fighting for power and vying for supremacy, so it definitely is a Murim series. Legend of the Northern Blade is just a masterpiece. To be honest, for me, I think once it ends, it'll probably go down as one of my favorite of all time. I think it's perfect in what it's doing right now. I'm curious where they're going with story points sometimes, because there's different factions on different sides, and it's really hard to kind of see how things are going to go exactly, but it is such a fun ride. You should be reading this, absolutely. Visually, I think it is distinctive, it looks unique, and I think it's beautiful. The way its art is like nothing else out there, and just makes you, if you're into it, love every frame. There's frames I've looked at just being in awe of how amazing it looks, at the same level as Soul Leveling or others, but I think it has much more of a distinct look to it than Soul Leveling does. It is not for everyone. I know some people have said the art really turns them off, they really dislike it. It is what it is. It follows Jin Muan, whose father faced his end being betrayed by his peers. His father was known as the Great Wall. He protected his people against the enemy, and they won the war. And at the end, because of these struggles for power, he was forced to kill himself in order for his son to live on. And the deal would be that his son would never be allowed to learn martial arts. But in the first few chapters, you find out that all of the scrolls to learn martial arts have been removed from the cities, and there is no way for Jin to learn. But you find that there's a secret to the city itself, and I'll let you uncover that. And it's just, there's a time skip, and I think it's important if you're starting to read it and you're like, I'm not sure I'm getting into it. I loved it from chapter 1 personally, but maybe you won't. Give it some time. Let it go through the time jump. Let it go through some of the first battles. And then if you still don't like it, maybe it's not for you. It is, like many manhwa, there's some things that are slow burn, so I can understand maybe it's not for everyone. The kid part is a slower part of the story. There's less fighting, there's less action, but I just love every single chapter of this series, and I think it is one of the greatest manhwa ever written. With that, guys, that is my top 10. I hope you enjoyed this today. Like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to tell me down below what series you want to see covered in the future. With that, have a great day.